Greetings students, I'm Dr. Sadi, your instructor for this IPE course, and what we are going to do today is we're going to continue with what? With Module 7. And if you remember, Module 7 had two very interrelated topics, is that right? Technology, okay. So here we go. It's a very sensitive board. Here we go. That's okay. So as you can see, this module focuses on two interrelated topics of technology and TNCs, or transnational corporations, or another word for them is what? MNCs, okay? So in the previous section, we covered technology, very, very important notion. And now, today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about TNCs and their role, okay? So having said that, let me see if I can take this one a little bit higher. Would it go higher? Yes, it does. Okay, let me see. Okay, this is it. And, ooh, wow, interesting. It did. Okay, let's go up a little bit. That's all we want. And then probably a little bit to this side. Okay, so I hope you can see it. It's as large as I can get it. So on the cover of the PowerPoint, or what? Study guide. I also put, some addresses of the YouTubes. Just remember one thing about the YouTube URLs, guys, because one of the challenges is that sometimes we put something at the beginning of the semester, and then halfway through the semester, because these, sources are dynamic, is that right? So what happens is somebody goes over to update it or something, they change it. If something like that happens, please send me an email, and I will go and find something more relevant for you. Is that right? But for now, I put just that one for you. All right, so here we go. Let's go and talk about what? First of all, the big picture. Remember, we always cover the big picture first, and then we go to what? To get more and more specific. So we start with an introduction. We talk about the global production, and we talk about large transnational corporations and competition. Then we talk about the governance of the TNCs, okay? Then we talk about relations between states and TNCs. Then TNCs out of what? States control, yes or no? It's a question, all right? And then we move on to the notion of effects of the TNCs and automation on the, on the workers, and then changing production structure, and certainly, last but not least, conclusion. So having said that one, now let's start. Here we go. Introduction. Something that I have kind of leaned into it from the beginning of the semester in terms of the multinational corporations, or what nowadays more and more people, they call them TNCs. Is that right? If you remember, the abbreviation multinational corporation stands for what? Or MNC stands for multinational corporation, okay? Now, and these are corporations that, their level of activity goes beyond the border of one country. I mean, if you provide us with just that simple definition is enough. But as you have noticed, almost every single political scientist or international relations scholar that is focusing in IPE comes up with their own definition, So I don't want your brain to be a machine for just memorization. Subscribe to one of them that you like better, is that right? And then start using that concept in, in terms of your analysis. What is really important is analysis, not like, using you as a tape recorder, a temporary tape recorder until the exams comes and then you forget it or something. No, I want you to remember it. So there are 4 abbreviations for this phenomenon we call multinational corporations, or TNCs, transnational corporations. Is that right? Which, as I mentioned, all they have that same simple definition. Some people sometimes call them TNEs, transnational enterprise. So they change the last letter, which is a C, to an E. Or MNE, multinational enterprise. Okay, this has been a question several times. There's a multiple choice, short answers, and even essay questions. Is that right? Here we go. I'm always giving you hints. These 4 abbreviations, there are 4 different abbreviations, but they're referring to exactly same phenomenon, same type of actor at international level. So remember that. So they have a global reach, and the developing countries can't control them themselves. Is that right? Because they're usually coming from a home country, not a host country, which is a developing country, and are usually controversial as well. So these are the 3 characteristics you need to know, but I already gave you a definition, basic one. And then TNC's home state uses the TNC in enriching the foreign policy goals of their own country. Okay, so there is a connection between those TNCs and the home country. All right, and they use the benefit of that. Of course, again, I put the definition: a company that is registered and operates in more than one country. Okay, that would be a good one to remember. Very basic, right to the point, covers everything. Often the TNCs have an HQ headquarters, is that right? HQ in one country and operates wholly by what? Subsidiaries in others. That's also very, very important. Notice here we put like a basically picture of a lot of these corporations that they're originally from one place, but what? They're everywhere, okay? And then of course for the LDCs, TNCs as host, companies and their, subsidiaries as their own home companies. So here, what this one is talking about is a very interesting kind of, rectangular relationship. From one side is the home country. From the other side is the host country. Usually the home country is developed country. Usually the host country is a developing country. Is that right? Okay. So under the home country are what? These multinationals, MNCs. Then in the host country, these multinationals goes over there and establishes a subsidiary. Like what? Like for example, US and I don't know, Mexico, is that right? Procter & Gamble, very large corporation that produces all these detergent, toothbrush, toothpaste, this, that, whatever. Is that right? Let's just focus, for example, on one of them. Is that right? Like, I don't know, Tide, okay? So Tide. So here we go. Corporation producing that one, okay? And then in Mexico they say, okay, we don't want to go and reinvent the wheel. We would like to use Tide as well, okay? So they establish a subsidiary. So here we go. It's a what? Rectangle, is that right? Relationship between the home country and host country, okay? Relationship between the home country and the TNC. Relationship between the host country and the subsidiary. And relationship between the subsidiary and what? And the MNC. Is this the end of it? No, because also there is a relationship between host country and multinational, and there is a relationship many times between what? Home country and subsidiaries, you see? So, relations on the top, relation on the bottom, relation vertical, and relation across. See, this can get complicated. That's why I discussed it in this way, and I wanted to make sure that you don't get what? Confused. Okay, having said that one, let's go to the next slide. So, global production. In global production, we can say the development, requirement, elements, remember, we talked about this one several times, is that right? Human resources, natural resources, capital, and technology. Well, guess what? MNCs, they can get in many different ways. They can provide the capital, they can provide also many times the technology. Okay, so the TNC's effort to get more LDCs are involved for their own cheap labor and natural resources. So these MNCs, they can bring capital, they can bring the technology, but they love the cheap labor in the developing countries. Is that right? And the natural resources that they have. Usually, they're both relatively speaking very, very cheap. So TNC is, source of foreign direct investment, or what we call for short FDI. I want you to really learn this abbreviation, okay? That's very important. Which LDC is used to what? To create jobs, gain access to technology, and grow their economy. So offshoring, basing some of the companies, for example, processors or services overseas to take advantage of a lower cost. Okay, because you're in competition. So if you can produce a product at a lower cost, you can what? Capture market share. Outsourcing contract, is that right? Or work out of or what? Out or abroad. Again, that helps that in that regard. Next notion is the mercantilist, concerns about the changes in the global production. Some of it's not under the control because mercantilists, they can do whatever they want to do, but the price of labor domestically is going to increase. Is that right? So then, and they don't have any control over it because they can say, oh, China, you start giving your people, more money. So then an American labor, for example, would look, more, competitive, with yours. So domestic versus overseas what? Production. Very, very important. Next function. Large TNCs and competition. So how large are TNCs? The TNC size versus what? Developing country. Sometimes, some of these, multinational corporations, guess what? Their total amount of sales is more than GNP, not GNP per capita, GNP of several developing countries combined. Or maybe an entire, continent, or most of the continent, like Africa or something, Unbelievable. So they're very, very powerful. forces. Trends in the competition between what? Cooperation. There are different types of trends. Some of them, they compete very, very strongly. Some of them, they kind of compete, but at the same time help one another. Sometimes, you see, so there are a lot of different ones. I thought that section was very nicely defined in your chapter, so why should I insult your intelligence? Is that right? Just read it. Okay, the governance of the TNCs. Governance means what? Bringing a sense of rule, because rules are necessary to bring order. If there is no order, it's going to be impossible to manage any of these, okay? So the global value chain, important investment agreement with what? With also the developing countries. Those are the two major folks I wanted to emphasize. Another one. You remember what I was just telling you? You could put it in a rectangle. You can put it also sometimes, some people, they use this type of format. I thought the rectangle that I suggested is a little bit better because it shows a little bit more than this one, but this is another way of presenting the same thing. So relationship between states and what? TNCs. TNCs as a tool of the national power for what? For states that they haven't registered as their companies. TNCs gain leverage over other states. This is what they suggest. I put some stuff right here for you, but I want you to have an open mind to see what other options others are presenting. That's why I presented that one, the rectangle one, because I wanted you to see the difference. Okay, so let's see if we can bring this one right there. Here we go. The next slide. TNCs out of what? State control. Is this true? Many times the TNCs, they want to do what? They really want to, not pay taxes. Is that right? Usually we middle class people, we end up paying a lot of taxes, but TNCs, they find all these like loopholes or something not to pay taxes. And sometimes that's one of the reasons they're interested in going overseas, and they usually make an agreement with the developing country or something. Hey, we bring this and that, so we get some of your people working, and you can be industrialized, but could you not tax us so much, or not at all, or for a few years or something. So those are incentives. So corporate, wrongdoing also is a part of it. Corporate wrongdoing, like what? Like bribes. Is that right? I never forget, for example, in the early 1990s, when the Soviet Union fell apart, and we were trying to promote capitalism, basically democracy, and Western democracy and capitalism in Russia. I was over there. I was trying to help some of the local, I was in a city called Izhevsk, which is capital of Udmurt Republic. So I'm giving you a real example. I'm not making up stuff. Okay, this has happened. We were promoting a certificate program in international political economy, a program that I got a grant from U.S. Department of State at the time. Okay, so we were trying to promote local people to have something to produce, and if it's a good product, and not only to saturate the local market, but also send it to the other part of the country, and also send it overseas. So I noticed in that area, and I was so surprised, they produced two things very, very well. And this goes to past experience, which was they were producing chocolate very well. I was eating chocolate in that area. I said, wow. I mean, they're not exactly like a Swiss chocolate or Belgian chocolate, but they're much better than American chocolate. Has higher cacao and a lot of creativity in terms of putting nuts and this and that and other stuff. So this would be what? Very, very attractive to do that. So I was trying to help them, advising them for free, for God's sake. Is that right? I mean, the local producers. And then one day, somebody is knocking at my hotel door and said, "Are you Dr. Sadi?" "Yes." "We heard that you're talking to such and such a chocolate company." I said, "Well, I mean, I'm trying to introduce the students, our students, as are learning more about international political economy, the way it's done and everything, how we can do it, and also helping your local producers so they can become global producers." I said, "Well, anything you wanted to talk with them, it goes through us." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Are you part of the administration of the factory?" He said, "No." I said, "Are you a shipping company?" "No." "Insurance company?" "No." "Bank?" "No." So I said, "How is that?" He said, "Well, we represent them." I said, "Oh, you're the legal firm?" "No." So I said, "Okay, well, thank you so much. When I need you, I will contact you." I'm just trying to be polite. Later on, when I talked with others, they gave me a business card. When I talked with some of the, factory people, I said, "Oh, it was the local, members of the mafia, Russian mafia that you were talking to." "No, we are not doing that, but they're expecting us to give a portion of whatever to them." for whatever. So you see what I mean? So here we go. And then some of them are actually in the in the local government. Some of them are somewhere else. So that's what I was trying to do. Sometimes then there is a some members, I think the way they found out was some members of that factory had reported it. How the heck would they know? Is that right? So there are a lot of wrongdoing, not just at the corporate level, but at any level, and this is something you should know. And I gave you a real example. Okay, so here we go. After that one, we go to this slide. Is that right? Effects of the TNCs and automation. Is that right? And this is something nowadays a lot of people are worried about. All these robots, for example, when you think about the way Henry Ford establishes assembly line, they were human beings sitting over there, each one of them holding a screwdriver or a hammer or something. As these parts are going, they do something with it. Is that right? Guess what? Nowadays, especially for a lot of specialized, type of activity, they have a robot. The robot comes over there and says, oh, connect this one to this one. And then they don't have to, the robot doesn't need to have a mask, this, that. The robot doesn't call sick. The robot doesn't do this. The robot is, you pay for it one time and you can use it for the rest of the life of the robot, which is usually decades and everything, you see? So people are kind of afraid of this automation, okay? And for good reasons, they would be losing their job. They're going to lose their livelihood. So effects of automation and, which is also globalized. It's not just, of course, developed countries, but many developing countries that are starting, they're establishing all these factories. Sometimes they kind of borrow the same idea because the idea is coming from those TNCs, which already have automated what in the developed countries. So production on the workers in the developed countries. So the emphasis right there on this section, part A. Part B says TNCs and the workers in the developing countries. Okay? Yes, they like the cheap labor. That's always a good thing. Is that right? But for example, a robot would do the same work much more accurately, especially if the quality of the product is concerned. All right, next slide. Here we go. The challenging, or the changing, better to say, is challenging too. Changing production structure. So change and uncertainty in the what? In the transition. Because when change happens, people, they think, oh, change is always for better. To a degree, yes, but change also kind of rocks the boat a little bit and makes people concerned about the sense of order. Remember, human societies, they love order. I mean, I know that many us Americans, we say, oh, I'm an American, I'm free, I can do whatever I want to do. But, frankly, when you're driving, can you do whatever you want to do? You have to follow the rules of the what? Traffic. Otherwise, you're going to be in an accident immediately. You see what I mean? So even though we feel like we are free and everything else, at the same time, we have to follow the rules. And the rules, they come from what? That sense of order. So that's very important because that uncertainty, what messes up with the order. Impact of the changes in the what? Communication and transportation. That's another one. Okay? I thought the text did a pretty nice job with that section it has. Game changing, development. Technology revolution. Look at this AI right now. A lot of the students are, talking about it. A lot of universities talking about it. Oh my gosh, you can't imagine how many workshops of AI I have taken, okay? And I have colleagues who hate it, I have colleagues who love it, and I'm right in the middle, as you noticed with the discussion posting. I said you can use it as a what? As a search engine. We prefer you to use the classical search engines, is that right? But you can use it as a search engine. Be very careful, no matter what type of AI it is, it creates a lot of fake information. We actually tested this one on my resume and everything else, for the workshop that I was taking here at FCTL, Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning, last summer. Oh my God, it took my, what do you call it, CV, or resume you call it, I guess. And then it recreated it, came up with a lot of books, were similar to my 6 books, but they didn't exist, that was one. I have more than 100 articles, so it had a lot of information. I can imagine what Sadri is researching about and writing about. And then he created a lot of, article titles and then put it in journals that they don't exist. You see what I mean? So you have to be very, very careful when you're using AI. Is that right? Because, as I have sent already emails to those students who did it, and they were not careful. If you use it as a search engine, you need to what? Check the very existence of every single one of those articles. Otherwise, we're going to catch you. And of course, this is a what? Inappropriate research activity, So first time you get a note and then you do it. Second time, then there's other things involved. But the bottom line right here is technology what? Revolution, which has a positive side and not so positive side. Okay, TNCs and their impact, very, very important. Is that right? That part of the chapter was easy to read, like a little history thing, so I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I'm going to go right away to the what? To the very last one, which is, the next slide. In terms of the conclusion, what can we say? We can say that the value and the challenges of the TNCs are still there. Is that right? There's no doubt about that one. The backlash against the globalization, is that right? Very important. And last but certainly not least is the return to what? Protectionism. Right now, under President Trump administration, we see that he likes tariffs and he has been using it, and that's what protectionism is all about. Remember, we covered that one on the very first module. Is that right? Right after introduction, we talk about mercantilism. So, and this is not to say this is good, this is bad. Every administration has its own ways of dealing with that one. So this particular administration is like that, okay? Some of our founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, were like that at the start of our, republic. But at that time, he had a very good reasons, because at that time, we were a developing country, We were trying to compete with the products coming from Great Britain. So he said, well, we need a little bit of a protection. But usually when you are, at our level, that type of protection or something, it actually in the long run hurts you, because the industries in our country, which are very sophisticated, they become lazy and they do not really go for innovation, because what is their main purpose? What is their main purpose of doing everything? The main purpose of any corporation is what? Profit. Okay, these are not non-profit. These are profit-oriented organizations. So profit for what? For their, stockholders, okay? And profit to what? To generate more salary for their top echelon, all the CEOs and top management. And a little bit of it goes to what? Lower level, middle and lower level, okay? So profit is very important. And that's what you need to consider, that how this is going to affect everything else. All right, having said that one, I hope you enjoyed, this nice, PowerPoint, very colorful, and the coverage that we had. And as usual, if you have a question, what do? You always email me. Thank you. Okay? Looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.